for the news that really matters and the uncensored truth. It's time for the Mr. Chris Show Underground News and Commentary.
Well, here we are again on the Mr. Chris Show Underground News and Commentary. So the last time we spoke, we went right up to the limit, and you were talking about this TIP. Would you just want to mention it again?
That's correct, Mr. Chris. Thanks for having me on again. Something that came to my attention just the other day, and I find it very disturbing, but it's a team that's been put together called the Transition Integrity Program.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, it's supposed to be bipartisan.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you just look at who's funding it, you can see that's completely fake.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, it's a whole bunch of campaign managers from the past, people who are involved in campaigns, political people that are forming for lack of a better word, a team that's going to be closely monitoring the transition. So, first off, it's misleading, and it's indicating that there will be a transition, so that it's presuming that Trump will lose.
Right.
And then also, it's presuming that he will not leave the office peacefully. He is going to resist.
Right.
Well, it's not just saying that he's going to do that maliciously, which they are saying that, but because of he won't accept the legal, quote unquote, legal results of the election.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is they're stacking the deck here. They're coming out. The left is constantly bombarding us with, we're going to do away with the electoral college. We're going to. It's going to be based on the popular vote. There's going to be litigation. There's not going to be any type of answer. They're already saying don't even bother looking for an answer on election night. They're actually saying it's a thing of the past.
Right.
So that tells me they're just planning major stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, this is basically a coup attempt. That's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to project something to where they can justify themselves for forcibly taking over the government and getting rid of Trump. I mean, that's what they really want to do, and they're trying to make up this silly story as much as possible to fool people and saying, well, yeah, Trump has to leave and this and that, and
Yeah. So this is very concerning to me. I'm doing some research on that, and I hope to have a little more for the next time we talk.
Sure.
But this is something that we want to keep an eye on, and I want all our listeners to do a little bit of research on your own. You can't get credible news from pretty much any of the mainstream news sources.
Right.
So if you think you're getting truth when you turn on the TV, you're looking at NPR and you think, this is National Public Television or National Public Radio, and this is great. I'm sure
that's because they have a personality. It's usually a female who sounds extremely intelligent, articulated, and she's sitting there. And in other news, it turns out that the drunken President Trump is doing other bad things that now I'm going to tell you about. And everybody's like, wow, it sounds so good. It must be true.
Right. So, I mean, they're experts at this. They've been doing it for decades. And it's, this is an unmitigated attack on our president, our Constitution, and our republic since the day Trump came down the escalator and announced his nomination, or his not nomination, but candidate.
Yeah.
Right. And sorry, but I mean, from day one, it's been relentless attacks for everything, and nothing is off limits for this man. His family, his young children, his business associates, his businesses, his taxes.
Right.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. And some of the things that the left does to him, if it were on the other foot and the right did that to the left, they'd be screaming so loud that, that's all you would hear,
right.
But somehow,
And it's like, if you look internationally, I'm not going to disclose where I am, but there are supporters all around the world for President Trump, and they're not Americans.
Right. I believe he's been nominated at this point for 3 Nobel Peace Prize nominations.
And I think they threw one to Biden, I just want to say, just because I guess his people probably complain, but I think he's being nominated for a Peace Prize for no particular reason, but Trump is actually being nominated because of his work that is actually bringing peace to the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like everything
nobody's
he's done.
Really done. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like everything he's done for our country, where he's actually putting rubber to the road and
right.
getting things done, versus, like he said, he's done more in 47 months than Biden's done in 47 years.
Right.
And it's true.
Right. Well, I want to switch gears here and talk about there's a couple different things to talk about, but let's talk about Amy Coney Barrett, which is the Supreme Court nominee that Trump has lined up. Now, before we get into her background, she, as soon as he announced her, he could have announced anybody. He could have announced, I don't know who. He could have announced Biden maybe or something, and they would have still put it down, even though that's their person. But any person he puts out there, they will shoot down without even thinking about it. And in this case, I believe they're saying that Trump could be impeached for doing this. Have you heard this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Pelosi said Trump could be impeached any day of the week, any time of the day. So, he puts the shoe on the wrong foot and they're going to try to impeach him.
And think about that. Think about that threat. So they actually can't do that, but you throw it out there. It's just like a person could say, oh, well, I can sue you for anything. Well, yes and no. You could try, but...
Right.
So basically, they're also saying something about it's unconstitutional. Is that correct?
Yep, they're throwing that out. In fact, Biden had an interview today where he was talking to a young lady, and he actually threw it out there that what President Trump is doing is unconstitutional to nominate her for the Supreme Court.
Right. Even though I've seen video of President Barack Obama, saying how you need to fill the Supreme Court whenever there's a vacancy immediately, and that's in the constitutional. And you can look it up. There's videos of him stating that himself, and he's basically their god. So if he says that, then that must be okay. But there's a different set of rules for other people, I guess.
Well, sure. And if you look at precedents, it's been done 29 times before. 29 times in an election year that the Supreme Court nominee has been nominated and, has gone forward.
Filled. Right.
Yeah. And, so, no, this only is because it's President Donald Trump doing this, that what the left loves to do. If they're not winning, they overturn the monopoly board and change the rules.
Right.
And that's what they're trying to do. So this reporter asks Biden, well, how is it unconstitutional for him to do what the Constitution says he's supposed to do? Of course, he didn't have an answer for that, and he bumbled and mumbled and bumbled his way through it, and pretty much came down to him feeling like it wasn't appropriate. Yeah. So now we're back to feelings, which is
weird
all the left has.
He's supposedly educated in law, so he should be able to cite the exact part of the Constitution. That's the problem. That's
well,
really
interesting
odd.
you say that, because that was the first part of his statement, was that he studied constitutional law for 20 years, and this is unconstitutional. And when the little reporter said, well, how is it unconstitutional? He didn't have an answer for that. Because, again, what I was getting to was that their feelings are hurt over this. When you talk about the left and everything that they do, it's all about feelings and consideration.
Right.
And it's not about law and constitution and, the rule of law. They don't want the rule of law because it doesn't apply to them. It only applies to you and me.
Right. Yeah.
When it benefits them.
Well, I think that, they're scared of Trump, number one. They're scared of what Trump has been doing, which Trump has been doing a lot of things behind the scenes in terms of ripping us away from the globalist control. And if he gets back in, he will complete that work, and they're terrified. But this is almost even more terrifying for them, because you had Ginsburg, which they said was a moderate or something like that. They might even have called her like a semi-conservative and stuff. Of course, she was so far left, she wrapped around to just about be, a conservative. It was so insane.
Yeah.
So they just label people certain ways, so that way they can say, oh, this person, oh, Amy, she's horrible. She's not competent. She's a Catholic. Her religious views are going to come into play. She's going to turn over Roe v. Wade. She's going to do this, that, and the other thing. So why is it that one side's party, and frankly, I don't care if you're right, left, center, up, or down, why should it be that your party's interests and your beliefs are above everybody else's? Why does it make Ginsburg right and Amy wrong in whatever they believe? There's supposed to be a balance on the Supreme Court, I thought. Isn't that what they always say?
Well, yeah, and it's not for judges and Supreme Court, what are they called? They're justices.
Right.
It's not for them to make law. It's for them to interpret the Constitution, put forward a ruling of their opinion, and then let the lawmakers make the laws. So just, the way it's presented, that she's going to go in there and destroy the world because she's going to undo everything, it's completely wrong. It's fear-mongering, and it's trying to get people who don't know, don't study, and don't realize how our system of government, law, and justice works in this country. They just don't take the time to look at it. And it's not taught in schools. It hasn't been for 30 years.
Right.
So, here you have the media just, giving the narrative and expecting people to just follow along.
Right. And if you look at the Supreme Court, how it's been, Justice Roberts, so he was touted as being this conservative guy, and whether people agree with what he's said, done, and weighed in on, he's turned out to not be the conservative that the conservatives expected. So just because they say something about a person, the person actually might be looking at the law and the Constitution and actually doing their job, which some people don't agree with, and that's understandable. But what the left wants to do, is, of course, is stack the court completely left and keep it far left, and then call it moderate or neutral, which it isn't. And this particular person here, this nominee Barrett, looking at her background, I don't know that much about her. I did look into it after I heard the information. She's pretty much a person who goes and does her job by the book, by the law. I don't see her being somebody who's going to go in there and what is she, Superwoman or Wonder Woman? Can she just single-handedly tell all the other justices to step aside and she's going to make a ruling? And that's what they make you believe. And I don't see that in her character anyway.
No. But again, you said it at the beginning of the segment. It doesn't matter if Trump would have nominated Gumby they would be attacking him, because Trump nominated him. The thing I find the most sickening about this whole thing, the way the left is treating this, and it's only been a few days. What he named her on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what, Wednesday, Thursday. It's only been a few days. I mean, they are throwing everything at her. Did you hear that they are? She's a mother of 7. They have 5 kids.
Two adoptees.
Together. 2 adoptees. They happen to be African or
Haitian.
Haitian, African, and they're attacking her and saying that she's a colonist, where she's
yeah. I've heard people say that she's a racist as well. So I mean, you can call anybody a racist these days because it's a good word to throw out there.
Well, yeah, it puts people immediately on the defensive because, people don't think of themselves as racist, or white supremacists or fascists.
Right.
So it's a good disarming tool if you let it be. I mean, I've been called everything in the book. I'm sure you have too. It doesn't, bother me anymore, but whatever. I've, never been a racist. I'm not a racist, but you can call me one because, you don't agree with the way I butter my toast. So, okay, fine.
And going back to our last talk where Trump was being accused, these Proud Boys that I mentioned, I didn't have a chance to mention it then, but if you go and look at the Proud Boys, you'll find out that they're multi-ethnic, and the president is actually Dominican, I think, something like that, Cuban, Dominican.
Sure.
So, of course, maybe he's a racist because he identifies being white or something like that. I mean, who knows what kind of crazy thing they can cook up. But the point is that's not a white supremacist organization, no matter what they try to say about it.
Correct. And, it doesn't matter. Anything that they don't agree with, anything that's not on their side, they're just going to call it racist or fascist or white supremacist.
So the Supreme Court justices have been, the vacancies have been filled in the past, as you said, in various election years, and I believe that it has, for the most part, been done in under 31 days if you look at it historically, sometimes very fast. So this is nothing new. We have they should just take the gloves off and tell us exactly what the problem is. And the problem is they want to try to extend it because there's a hope that Trump won't get in, so then they can get another person of theirs in. I mean, that's what they should just tell the people honestly, which they would never do. But that's the truth. Right.
Although these days, so many of the left is not even trying to hide their agenda anymore. I mean, they're coming right out and saying that, they want to do away with the Second Amendment. They want to raise our taxes. They want to take away our freedoms and stack the courts. They want to do away with the Electoral College. I mean, they're saying this straight out, and they're not hiding it anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting world. When I was growing up and speaking with elders, my elders, they would tell me about how things were, like in World War II, in the 50s, and all that kind of those eras, and including some of my elders that actually grew up in the Great Depression. And they explained to me about how the world was. And based on what I know from that, from what I know from history, and what I see now, it's really amazing that things have degenerated and accelerated into a spin so fast in the last, it's every year. It's almost exponential. Do you see that?
Yeah, and more so than seeing it, I feel it. And it's, how I long for the way things were 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. You're correct. Our republic, our nation has just had so much turmoil in the last 4 years that they have launched at a duly elected president that it's just unconscionable how they could do this and get away with it. All of the stuff that we've seen with the FBI and all the stuff Hillary did. And I mean, it's sickening.
Well, as we said, there's so many things going on. Well, there actually was a Senate hearing, and it was looking into this FISA documents, the Steele report, and FBI Director James Comey, which he testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee. And of course, the other side was saying, "Oh, why are we wasting our time in this? And why are we're rehashing this?" Well, we're rehashing it because there were 17 violations that were going on in order to perpetuate this document to keep the investigation alive. There were people like General Flynn who were taken down, and that supposedly is going to be corrected shortly. But they actually had questions for Comey, and it was 4 hours for the entire, well, at least that part with Comey. And I listened and watched it, and it was amazing. The former FBI director, when asked questions for the most part from the conservatives, came up and said, I don't know, I don't recall that. And it's always asking a question, he's asked a question and he answers with a question. He's like, well, is that the question you're answering? He did try to say a couple of times when they tried to pin him into a corner, he would say, well, I do not agree with your preamble, but this is what, I say. And the whole issue, of course, with this and why it's being hashed and rehashed is because this was basically a coup attempt against the sitting president of the United States and the incumbent, because this started before Trump was brought into office. And if the head of the FBI doesn't know what the FBI is doing, that tells you something. And I think Senator Ted Cruz said it best when he said that you're either deliberately corrupt or woefully incompetent. And he said, I don't believe you're incompetent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's completely amazing. I mean, these people are trying to they're trying to push it out of the way. There was like you said, Hillary. There's the information regarding Hillary and the involvement with the Russians and her private file server. And they never talk about that. But do you know what happened to her IT guy who set up all of her stuff?
Dead, I believe.
Yeah. That's a good guess. Yeah. Well, according to the police report, he was a victim of robbery and homicide in New York. Mm-hmm. And do you know what they found on his body?
His wallet.
His wallet.
Yeah, his money.
Yeah. Credit cards. His watch. Whoever killed him and robbed him, I guess they didn't realize, or maybe they didn't know, that a wallet is what contains money,
Exactly. Interesting. Well, I've heard it said, and they're saying it right out, that this was done, this whole FBI thing and all the FISA warrants and all that were done to cover up for all of the emails that she illegally, all of the subpoenaed emails that she illegally erased, destroyed the devices with, bleach bits and hammers and whatever else. This was all part of this, and these people who are standing up here now and lying are all being controlled by that Clinton machine.
And the chairman, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, I think he said it best when he said, this is a problem for everybody. Doesn't matter which side you're on, because if the FBI can get these FISA warrants on whoever, that's a big, big step. How would you like it done to you? How would you like to just be sitting around not doing anything, and somebody accuses you of whatever, and they go, well, we got to go get a FISA warrant and take this guy down and everything else? I mean, there's due process, and the FISA warrant is such a damaging thing for people because it actually goes around a lot of due process due to its very nature, because it's almost like a silver bullet. It's only used for very specific things that you're absolutely certain of.
Yeah. So obvious, abuse here of power, and just ridiculous.
And the guy who's sitting there, Comey, I've heard it said somewhere. He knows how to maneuver the system. He's a very sharp guy, and he was on camera, and he probably had a teleprompter with his lawyer running the other side there, typing exactly what he should say, because he did not get trapped. I know that they were trying to trap him, and maybe he said certain things that could be used against him in the future when they roll out more documentation and such. But boy, he was sure crafty. Yeah, he he knows what he's doing. That's for sure. Yeah, and it's sad, because if the FBI has that kind of power that goes unchecked, I mean, that's not the kind of thing that you want. I agree with Lindsey Graham. I mean, that's very dangerous.
Well, and, it's so often that the left does stuff like this. For instance, they want to do away with the Electoral College. Okay, well, at this moment in time, in this part of our history, if we go to a pure popular vote, that's obviously going to benefit the left at this point. But let's say there's some sort of a change. Let's say there's a huge earthquake in California, and people leave there in droves and filter all out through the entire country. And let's say just something systemic like that changes, and now it suddenly doesn't benefit them anymore. Are they going to be looking to switch things back? It's like you're saying, this is going to hurt them as well. It's going to hurt everybody in the country. We're not two separate peoples, left and right, although it's starting to become that. Right. We're one people, one nation under God, indivisible. And that's what we're supposed to be. And we're not supposed to have one system that benefits one side and another system that benefits another, and have this combat going on that we're seeing.
Right. And, people like Biden shouldn't dig too deep into his party's history, because talking about white supremacists, the Democratic Party was the one behind the KKK, and they like to omit that little fact out of history.
Oh, sure. And most of the slave owners and, most of the people that were running the entire Confederate side of the Civil War, and they just like to not teach history, burn the books, pull the statues down, and don't look over here, folks, nothing to see.
Well, because you pull the statues down because you want to rewrite history, and you want to bring in, well, it's very simple. They want to roll in the socialist government. This concept has not been done away with, and Estes K. Brown has gone into great detail about the deep state and the whole thing. But that's what it's all about in a nutshell. That's the core of what's at stake here.
Well, I mean, it's globalist versus nationalist. I mean, that's
right.
Like you're saying. So, they want socialism. They want the UN to come rolling in here and police everything and
just like Hitler, just like in the Second World War, he rolls in and promises all kinds of things, and just like the communists that go into Cuba, they promise all kinds of great things, and they're great promises. They really are, but that's all.
Yeah, I mean, we can look just as recently as Venezuela, same thing. That didn't take very long.
Yeah, that's for sure. So we are once again out of time, but it's been a great conversation, and I hope to speak with you again, Duncan.
Thanks, Mr. Chris. Always a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Until next time, this has been the Mr. Chris Show, News and Commentary.